everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today at the RG Podcast. This is Isaiah Diesel, joined with Justin. Is that right?
Yes. Yep. That's correct.
Justin, I'm digging the beard, man. You got like a lumberjack beard going on.
Yeah, this is probably 2 weeks.
2 weeks. This
It's
is
uh,
about
it's
2 days.
yeah, it's rough to maintain. It's a lot of extra effort when you're just at home.
hmm And you might have asked where you're calling out of?
I am just south of Detroit, Michigan, in the U.S.
Detroit. Okay. All right. All right. Any chance you ever saw the movie Roger and Me by Michael
Mm,
Moore?
nope.
It's a really good one. It's about Michigan, Flint, Michigan. You should check it out if you get a chance. But all right. So yeah, thank you for joining me very early today. I believe it's like 7 a.m. where you're at.
Yep, that's correct.
Yeah. And so before we get started, we like to do a quick little friendly fire round. Just ask you a little bit of bizarre, random questions. Because generally when we start talking about religion or politics, stuff like that, it can get a little bit contentious. So we like to keep these conversations a little light and friendly. So
Okay,
you okay for that?
sure.
All right. What's your favorite alcoholic beverage?
Um, would be probably red berry Ciroc.
Farrak?
Ciroc. It's a European brand that was imported to the U.S. by I think by Puff Daddy actually is like the brand
Puffed it.
ambassador in the U.S. But it's like Smirnoff or Amsterdam, but
Okay.
it tastes a lot better.
A lot better. Okay. Here we go. Next question. Here we go. Who is your favorite action star of all time?
Uh, if I had to pick one, probably Dwayne Johnson,
Dwayne Johnson. Can't go
the
wrong there.
The Rock. Yeah,
And all right. And last one. Top three British bands of all time.
you'd have to like tell me which ones are British and which ones are not.
Okay, see, I'm really into British music. I would go with my own personal favorites. I would go with Duran Duran. They're like my all-time favorites. And yeah, so Duran Duran, the Smiths, love the Smiths, and probably the Rolling Stones. So all right,
I
so
I was just say I was having a conversation with my brother about that a couple days ago about some bands were so big, the ones that I recognize as like bands in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, like AC/DC, and you
mhm,
wouldn't even know like from the U.S. perspective if you weren't around at that time and you weren't like following their tours and concerts, you wouldn't even really know that they're not from the U.S. or
American. I
yeah.
know,
There's really no good way to tell where they're from.
I know. Except when you hear them talking, like people usually sing in an American accent. But yeah,
Hmm.
you're totally right. I thought Queen was from America. I thought Led Zeppelin was from America, and I thought AC/DC. They're from the UK. They're from Australia. They're from
Yeah,
the uh,
Australia.
yeah. So okay, so real quick, would you mind giving me a 1 minute introduction to your channel, please?
I co-host a channel called International Freethinkers. We are secular, with my friend Jenna Miu. And the channel was originally designed to be a extension of the type of daily conversations that we have with our peers and our friends and other people. But the goal was to so on we use Discord primarily. So with Discord, you can have a voice and text mostly. They you know you can now have like video chats, but the goal was to um, add this video element, another level of connection to the communication, and to just have like friendly um, conversations with each other in a environment where a lot of the people that we interact with just don't have that connection and that community. Um, so it was really just an extension of that, and then over time, we've talked to a lot of different people. We've talked to a lot of different other groups that are doing something very similar. that are working on activism, education, um, and primarily just trying to show that we can have like casual and cordial conversations about different topics, and not only that, but every opinion is valid to some degree, in that you don't have to be like some super expert in a field to be able to be part of the conversation. At least
Right.
express your questions and concerns and ideas and thoughts on different topics.
Sure. Okay. So, and how long you been doing this channel for? About a year.
About 2 years actually. So it's still a really small channel. 260 or so subscribers. It's you know so we never really put a lot of effort into advertising and promoting and getting it out there. We do a little bit here and there, um, but hopefully it grows organically versus
Yeah.
just trying to force it in there. So
Right. Right.
yeah, we've been doing it for a while. It's weekly.
All right.
We take a lot of take time off here and there. It's not supposed to be this high maintenance um, production, but
Yeah.
we put some
Well,
time and effort and stuff into it.
I got some resources that might be able to help you. I've helped out a few of my atheist guests who have come on. So for me, I feel like extending out olive branches and trying to cross like some boundaries. And I'll tell you this, like my claim to fame as far as this channel goes is that 7 atheists have trusted me with their addresses to send them some Korean gifts that are not laced with arsenic or was that other one that was going around that they were sending not do you know what I'm talking about? They were sending some letters laced with some anthrax. That's the one I'm thinking about. So yeah, that's I try to be like a light. I try to be the light that I want to see in the world. But that being said, I did give you some questions. Were you
Hmm.
able to look at those questions?
Yeah. Um, I looked at them. I put some thought into it, but I tried not to do too much research or anything on them because I just kind of want to be able to give my like direct opinion on them rather than things that I've gathered like overnight
Yeah,
from the internet.
and real quick too, for the record, um, one of the reasons why I like to do this is to want to give you a chance to do some research and some thought beforehand, but also to give you a general idea where the conversations want to go or I want to go with them because people can sometimes tend to um, try to steer a conversation in one very specific direction and they try to get you into gotcha questions and corner you into a wall. And that's just not the kind of conversations I want to have. Like these are legitimate questions that are open ended and yeah, you know what I mean? That just they're honest. They're actually honest questions. So
Well,
speaking of which,
these are questions that affect everybody of every group and political belief and religious groupings, as far as like
yeah,
the something about bullying or whatever.
yeah. And actually, this program um, helps to support a anti-bullying campaign for the LGBT community. I'm not sure. Did you happen to see some of the stuff that was coming on about me over this last week?
I've seen some
And
of
my
it.
podcast.
I've seen
Yeah,
some of it, and we're gonna see some of it in the comments here.
yeah. It was a little harsh, especially because I'm someone who's very strongly against bullying, and I'm up for open and honest dialogue. But here's just one fact. Here's one reality. Most of the conversation that went really sideways was about the transgender community. And see, I live in South Korea, and I live in South Korea, and I had lived here for about like 5 or 6 years. and I went back to America, and I was at this Christian like conference, and this guy made this joke. He's like, he goes, I saw a guy driving around on like a really girly bike, and he goes, whenever I was a kid, he said, whenever I was a kid, people there used to be boys' bikes and girls' bikes, and he goes, wait, when I was a kid, we used to have boys and girls, and then everyone started laughing, and I'm sitting there like, I literally don't even get the joke that he's talking about because I've been living in South Korea where it's like it's not really that big of an issue and it's kind of like swept under the rug. So there's just a lot of ignorance on my part. And so coming here to South Korea, I got caught up in cultural problems and I wind up offending some people sometimes. Some people wind up offending me really bad sometimes. And that's just what happens whenever you're dealing with ignorance. Like I'll give you one quick example. I met a girl and I asked her how old she thought I was because it's really important to establish that in South Korea or in Asia because there's different levels to speak to people. There's a way you talk to someone who's older than you, a way you talk to someone who's the same age as you, and then someone who's younger than you. So you have to establish that very early on. So when I asked her how old she thought I was, she said she thought I was 32, and I was only 25 at the time, and I was like, why would you think that? And she's like, oh, well, your forehead is so big because my hair was receding. And I was like really, really self-conscious of that. And I'm like, that's really rude. That's really rude to just point that out to me. And when I told her that, she just about broke down crying because she was not intentionally trying to offend me, but that's just something that a South Korean person might say to you really directly. They might just say, oh, you're like fat or something like that. And it's not considered to be like rude. So I've had to navigate a lot of these cultural issues, but some of it just comes down to absolute ignorance. So if we're not willing to have conversations and try to educate and try to inform people, I don't know, just like I think we just need to have a little bit of patience with each other. You get what I'm saying?
Sure, yeah, yeah. I mean that seemed like a huge tangent from this questions, but yeah, no, I understand. Just moving into a new culture and trying to navigate the cultural norms of that region without
Right,
it could feel like a social land like minefield.
right. And so I just give you one other quick example because this is related. Because then later on, my one of my bosses went to hand me something, and you're supposed to have things with two hands in South Korea. It's like really respectful. It's really gentle, and you like bow. And I grabbed it with one hand, and I was like, "Thanks," and I walked away. And then she wound up telling my co-teacher, like that was really offensive that I did that. And I was like, "Oh my God, I had no idea." But the point online with that, it's not really a tangent because what I'm trying to tell you is that I might commit a faux pas for example, and the transgender talk. But it's not like I'm not out trying to attack anyone. You know what I mean? Just some of the stuff doesn't like make sense to me. Some of the stuff I don't understand it. And so if we're not willing to kind of give people the benefit of the doubt and understand that I'm certainly not someone. I know there are people out there trying to hurt people, but that's certainly not my intention.
Well, there's another option to that, especially online, right? Is you just don't talk about it if you don't know what you're talking about and you make an effort to listen and learn. You
Mhm,
know, if ignorance is the problem, that's easily solvable, right? There's tons of online resources, there's tons of people, there's tons of YouTube channels, there's tons of books,
uh-huh.
there's tons of, medical information, there's tons of everything. You can just listen and learn. Like that's a perfectly acceptable course of action.
Okay. All right. Well, moving right on. I'm sorry. Right now, my internet is cutting out. Do you happen to have the questions that I sent you?
Sure. The first one is why is online bullying so prevalent or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. You want to go for that one? I'm sorry about that, by the way. But I just can't get the internet right here right now. Good.
Um, why do I think it's so prevalent?
Yeah.
I think my thought on that is the current widespread opinion on why it's so widespread, and it's because one anonymity and separation from the people that you're attacking. Um,
Right, right, right.
this
Exactly.
there's real time repercussions in real life or in person that just
Right,
don't
right.
exist on the internet, right? And we have very limited capacity to remove avenues of attack on the internet like we do in real life.
That's a good
If
point.
it's in schools or a workplace,
Uh-huh.
or even a a place like a restaurant or a movie theater, you can immediately remove that person and have physical separation. But online, that doesn't
Mhm.
exist. If you remove them from a group or a server or your Twitter feed, there's still so many other ways to communicate and get to people.
So, yeah, it's interesting. One of my atheist co-hosts, we had him on. One of my atheist co-hosts, we had him on a talk about bullying, and he said that one of the things about that makes it a bit different from how do you call it? Just regular bullying is that you can easily leave the bully situation online. Let's say someone's bullying you, and you could just go right over to another server or something like that. So it's it's he was basically saying that he didn't feel that online bullying was the same exact thing as regular bullying because there's not like maybe this is part of our brain, maybe it's evolution, but it's it's capable. We're capable of whenever we have a fight or flight situation to either engage it or get out of there real quick, right? And so with online bullying, it makes fleeing very easy because you just have to turn off your computer, you know. So
Sure, but
yeah,
there's I mean there's some it's not that simple, right? And um you can do that, right? But you're also cutting off
mhm,
your source of entertainment, your source of social interaction, your source of education, your source of
mhm.
connecting with the world and the groups. And yeah, you can go from one server to another. You can go from one group to another. But you can do that in real life if you really want to. You can just pack up and leave the state or the country or the city or whatever. It's just one, you shouldn't have to, and there's always a benefit and cost assessment of, do I leave my friends or group or whatever this thing is that I'm interested in, because people keep harassing me or bullying me. Now, if you're in a group where that's allowed or encouraged, it's probably better to do so. But that's not always the case.
Yeah. Do you experience a lot of bullying in some of the servers that you're in, like one side to the other?
I so if we're talking about I guess to some degree, I think most in groups do it to out groups to various
In
degrees.
group, right?
Now there are some groups that are moderated or designed in a way to mitigate that and limit it as much as possible, but um, depending on the type of group and the missions and the type of people that they're attracting, there could be a lot of resentment and anger and just wanting to get some you know ex- feelings and thoughts out there. And if the people that are on the receiving end of that are intentionally antagonizing, it's going to get even worse.
Yeah, yeah. So what do you think about the moderators? Do you find that they do a good enough job with moderating in some of these groups?
I mean, they do what they can, right? These groups,
Right.
these are not corporate organizations. These are not big companies, right? This is not, even when you have, if you look at Facebook as a group of groups, a group of pages type situation, they're not great at it. Twitter's not great at it. YouTube's not great at it. YouTube pays people, thousands of
Right.
people to try to moderate their content. They're not good at it. Um,
Right.
and so you have these groups that are set up in different ways with either a couple core people at the top that have to make all the decisions, and it tends to become a group around their particular personality, or you can set up, you know, um, moderators that run more like a board that make decisions and have um, individual ideas on how things should run.
Yeah, I got one for you. I got one for you. Speaking of that, this has to come down to they're using some kind of AI or something, because I'm actually just finishing up like a 30-day ban on Facebook, because someone asked a question and I said, "How do you figure that?" And the W I accidentally put an E, so it said, "Ho, do you figure that?"
Mm.
And I'm like, that grammatically doesn't even make any sense if I were to call someone a hoe, like that, because that's not even the way. Like a HOE is a garden tool, but a HO is a slut. You know what I mean? Like what people would call like a slut or a prostitute. So yeah, I got banned for 30 days for that. And that's actually the second time that exact scenario happened, because I said same exact thing. I said, ho do you think? And then boom, it just like instantly. And the last time I saw it, and I sent it, and I saw it pop up, and I'm like, oh my god, I know exactly what's gonna happen. I'm gonna get banned for another 30 days now. So
Yeah,
I think I have like 24 hours.
they
Yeah.
use AI, and then they have evaluators that will evaluate the AI decisions and rate them based on
Um.
a set of predetermined criteria and
Right.
other baseline decisions that were made before, like almost like case studies.
Yeah. Hey Oz, I do gotta tell you that for all the hating you're doing right now in the comment section, Isaiah Weasel, that's pretty good. I gotta give you props on that. So anyway, going on to number two, I was able to get this on here. Why do most people have a hard time to agree to disagree on some topics? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, there's some things that you just can't get past, right? There's some things
Mhm.
that are relatively benign. Um, like what's the best TV show or ice cream or whatever. But there's some things,
TV show Cobra Kai. Cobra Kai is the best.
I just finished season 4 of that. But
Oh,
there
I've finished about 5 times.
yeah, there
So I'm
are
sorry.
some.
Good.
The deeper you go into a person's worldview, um, the more entrenched they are, right? And there's ideas and beliefs that are so polarizing and so opposite that they're incompatible. And this is not only with politics and religion, right? So um, I see you as so
Yeah, Oz is doing some
the
online bullying right now. It's all good. It's all right though, Oz.
well
I'm gonna turn the other cheek like Jesus said. So yeah, it's all good.
I don't know if that's the case, but so even outside
You just called me a piece of shit. So yeah, I would have to say yes.
even outside of politics and religion, the you can get into things like sports, right? Like some people don't
Mhm.
take sports very seriously,
Mhm.
but where I'm
Mhm.
from in Michigan, University of Michigan football is is the most cult like experience that I've ever been in was going to a University of Michigan football game, and their rivalry with Ohio State and whatever
Wow.
other teams is very 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 deeply ingrained and rooted in the culture here, right?
Mhm.
And it can cause fights and tensions and people to
Wow.
not
Wow.
get along, right? And so it's not just politics and religion. It's other things, but it's the same idea. It's the same mechanisms at play of this set of beliefs is part of my identity and who I am. And so if you're attacking it, then that is the same as attacking me. When people tie themselves to their
Right. Right.
ideas and
Right. Right.
beliefs.
Right. Right. Right.
So there's the part that makes it hard to disagree, or what was the exact question?
I'm sorry. Can you say that last line again, please?
Yeah, I'm looking for the exact wording of the question.
Oh
Why
yeah. Why is
why
it so hard to agree to disagree?
hard
Actually,
time
let
to
me jump in here. Yeah. Yeah. Let me jump in here for a second, because first of all, the college in the Midwest, if you ever see some of the games, some of those guys go out there and they paint their bodies, and they wind up getting really drunk, and so people have
Mm-hmm.
actually died out there from hypothermia, because they're out there freezing. I mean, I went to school in Missouri, right? I went to school in Missouri, and I'm from California, so I remember when I first got out there, I was all running around in the snow, like, oh yeah, this is great, this is amazing. It's snow. It was like this third time I saw snow in my life, and then shortly thereafter, I was like, oh god, last thing in the world I want to see is another snowflake, because especially when your car starts to slide out or whatever from that, and you got to scrape the snow off of your windshield is a total pain. But um, yeah, so that can be a little bit dangerous there. But the other thing too is to say that I will say this, and Oz, I do hope I do hope you're listening, Oz, because the thing is, my opinion of having lived about 10 years overseas is that the way that I see problems and the way that Koreans see things is totally different, because we've grown up with two totally different ways of thinking. So, I mean, my wife's Korean. We have some cultural issues within our marriage and within her family that is very hard to resolve. It's like I just say there's cultural issues whenever they think about a problem being totally different, and the way in which they might explain things or what would be acceptable are literally like 100% opposite. And so when I say like 100% opposite, I mean like when they want to call someone, they go like this, which is like what we would do with a dog, right? We would say like that to dog. And if you were to say like this, that's what they would say. Oh, you don't do that because that's what you do to a dog. So there's some things that are just slightly different, and there's things that are just 100% different. Like, I'll give you an example. If we were not even necessarily having like a disagreement, but let's just say a topic is a little bit more serious, and in America, anytime you're having a conversation, looking directly into the person's eyes would be like the most important thing to do in a conversation. But for them, they would consider that really rude. So if I were talking to you, one thing that they might do is like look off to just slightly off to the side, or they might look at like your nose or your chin. And of course, from us, if you're an American, you're sitting there, that is extremely disrespectful for us, that someone's not willing to look us in the eyes. But for them, it's just it's a cultural thing, You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you don't know what someone has been grown up, you don't know what someone has grown up with, you don't know how they've been socialized. And so what you find to be acceptable, what you find to be logical, might be totally different. And I'll never forget this one too, because I was dating this girl from South Africa here, and she used a word that she used a word. She said that she thought to me that she was just a warm body, um, because I had chosen like to no longer have like a physical relationship with her, because I was really starting to like care about her more on just like a deep friendship level. And but I was still spending a lot of time with her, and I was still trying to be a positive influence in her life. But she had she told me that she thought that I was just like a warm body for. I was just being a warm. She was a warm body for me, and so for me that triggered me off, and that was like really one of the last steps in our like friendship that we were having, because to me that was really disrespectful, because she had become such an important. Like, I had so much love and affection for this person that I was no longer even willing to have like the sexual relationship with her, because I just valued her friendship. So, so okay, my microphone's very harsh. I was trying to speak lower. So, so that's the point in which you could have some kind of trigger words. Whenever she called herself a warm body, it had the exact opposite meaning that I had, and I felt like so disrespected by it. We kind of just stopped talking at that point. But anyway, the point is that we don't know what the other person knows. We don't know the information they're dealing with at the time, and then we don't know how they've grown up culturally, religiously, economically. So the way that we use some words, I'm telling you, because I'm Mexican, grew up on the east side, Bakersfield. Our conflict resolution was like really, really unhealthy, and it's cost me a lot of relationships as an adult. So I've had to give myself a little bit of grace and unlearning a lot of that unhealthy stuff. So anyway, I do want to go on to the um, next question, number 3. Do you think that we're in an evolution of a species and society via the internet? What are your thoughts on that?
If you mean like biological evolution, um, I don't see how that's the case or how it's possible. Um, is our like society evolving in a certain way? Yes. I don't know how. I don't know. How, I mean, I guess it's possible. I just don't understand it well enough to.
Okay, so,
If we're talking about the actual, evolution of an actual species biologically, because of the internet and stuff. I don't know how that's the case.
okay.
I think we are affecting our evolution of the species via technology,
Mhm,
but that goes all the way back to the dawn of agriculture and how
mhm.
we're diverting off of what would be considered the original natural path, because we can modify our environment to fit our needs.
Oh,
Um,
hold on. Just 1 second. Oz says here, he says, you said that you hate being called Mexican. Now you embrace it, liar. Okay. I just will address that real quick. I said
mhm.
whenever I was growing up, I hated being a Mexican because, and Oz, I hope you're listening to this. When my dad came to America from Mexico, it was right in the middle of what something was called Operation Wetback. Okay. And so what the government was doing was it was catching Mexicans, sometimes American citizens, and deporting them back to Mexico. Okay. So my dad, when he came to America, he couldn't speak English. Okay. My grandmother crossed the border to have him illegally. I guess it was legal. She crossed the border illegally to have him so he'd be a citizen. So whenever they came over at the age of 5 years old, he was about 5 or 6 years old. Um, he couldn't speak English. So whenever he was in school, if he spoke Spanish, the teachers would actually hit him. So my parents didn't want us to speak Spanish growing up. So, but they would speak Spanish to themselves to, speak in like code language. So point being is that really made me hate hearing Spanish and hating being Mexican. And it wasn't until I moved overseas, whenever I tried to assimilate into Korean culture, that that I really started to embrace my Mexicanness. So I'm very proud to be a Mexican now, and that's in my second book, Oz. I'm more than happy to send you a free copy. But okay, so let me do elaborate on one thing. So when the printing press became more widely,
Sorry. I think we lost connection somewhere. This is my show now, apparently. Hey, Oz. Oh, I can't hear you. This is a rookie. Your internet is a rookie